infrastructure. So for Bill and me, who have worked in the West Bank for many years and have a true spiritual kind of heart for Palestine, when we heard about the Gaza Freedom March, we just could not go, as our friend Dan Berrigan used to say. We just could not do it, and so we did. What happened briefly is that Code Pink, an organization many of you have heard of, was the instigator of this idea, because they had already taken 7 small delegations of maybe 12 to 20 people with humanitarian aid into Gaza since the invasion last year. And they had succeeded in doing that. They had developed a technique for working with the Egyptian authorities, and they had managed every time to get all the permits and permissions that they needed to bring their aid into and through Egypt to the Rafah entry into Gaza, which is on the Egyptian border, and to enter. So they felt very encouraged about bringing a larger delegation, and they put out a call for at least 1,000 internationals to come to Gaza on the anniversary of this assault. As it turned out, there were 1,362 of us who ended up in Cairo around the 26th and 27th of December. The very first event that was planned was a mass meeting for orientation of 1,362 internationals from 42 countries. It was planned to take place at the Holy Family Jesuit School in Cairo, which is a very old and respected institution. And when we got there, we learned that the Egyptian authorities were not allowing the school to host the meeting. And that was the beginning of the slide. You know, every time a meeting was planned, it was blocked. We planned immediately a demonstration. The organizers rented enough feluccas, which are these little boats on the Nile, enough feluccas for all of us to go out on the river and float candles, one for every person who was killed in Gaza during the invasion. The permits for the feluccas were pulled, and we were not allowed to do that. So we had a demonstration on the street by the river. At that time, there were a little over 700 of us on the street demonstrating with our candles. And the police surrounded us, blockaded us, and kept us there for several hours. This was followed by demonstrations at the UN and demonstrations at each one of the national embassies of the people who were there. As I said, there were 42 countries represented. None of these demonstrations did any good. The French were the most successful. They actually blocked a major thoroughfare by lying down in the street until their ambassador came out and promised to try to work for them, but it still did no good. But when it became clear to Bill and me that we would not get into Gaza as we had hoped, we had a meeting with the leaders of the Interfaith Affinity Group, of which we were a part. Dr. Mark Johnson, who's the Executive Director of Fellowship of Reconciliation of USA, and Rabbi Lynn Gottlieb. Some of you may know her. She was in Albuquerque for years. And we met with them and discussed it and came to clarity that we should go to the West Bank because we have so many connections there and we've worked there over a period of years. So, and the idea was for us to try to hook up with the Israeli peace movement, which was going to march down to the Erez crossing within Israel, while the internationals who had hoped to get into Gaza would march from inside to the crossing. This was the original plan. So we got on a bus, went to Taba, crossed the border to Eilat, and went to Jerusalem on the 30th of December without any reservations. And this is Christmas and New Year's, and so it was a real. I in our behalf. It was a real act of faith for us to do that, because and there's just, I'm not going to spell out the details because we don't have time, but we had a series of amazing instances. The first being that as we trekked through the Christian quarter of the Old City to all the hostels that we know about from our years there, looking for a room, and finding everybody was full. When we told our story and said that we had come from Egypt because we were with the group that was trying to get into Gaza, doors open, we got a room. We weren't allowed to pay for it, and that took care of us on the first night. We learned that a demonstration was taking place in solidarity in Bethlehem. So we went to Bethlehem, and we were able to help set up the demonstration, leaflet people in Manger Square. A huge crowd came. It was a very satisfying event. Children from the Ida refugee camp put on the program. It was beautiful. We hung little tags with the names of every child who was killed in Gaza on the trees around Manger Square at the end of the demonstration. Again, we met a person we'd never met before who kindly invited us to stay at his home, and we stayed there for 2 days until we went back to Jerusalem to do some more work. If we had been able to get into Gaza, our plan was to stay for an extra week after the demonstration and work with the American Friends Service Committee Palestine Youth Project, and because we're Quakers, and anyway, it's a great project. And the AFSC, the American Friends Service Committee, has been in Gaza nonstop since 1949. And in fact, they say that they were there before UNRWA. So anyway, they have a wonderful project, and I won't have time to tell you all about it, but because we were unable to go to Gaza, but had been in contact with the director of that project, we made it our business to get a hold of the AFSC's Middle East director, Dr. Patricia Selleck, who's from Great Britain, and we met with her in Jerusalem, and then she set up a meeting for us with the West Bank team who runs the same project in the West Bank, and their headquarters are in Ramallah. So we went from Jerusalem to Ramallah to meet with the 4 staff people who manage the Palestine Youth Public Achievement Series project. And I have a booklet here. We brought a bunch of these back because we're planning to take them to our Quaker yearly meeting in June to try to raise money for a new generator for the AFSC project in Gaza, because the power cuts are worse and worse. People can't get their connectivity, and this kind of project just really depends on that. The AFSC owns the generator that they have in Gaza, but it's on its last legs. So this is a project that Bill and I are undertaking, and he'll tell you a little more about it, to raise some money to try to get them a new generator. We were also able to take part in a solidarity demonstration while we were in Ramallah, and when our time was up in Jerusalem and Ramallah and Bethlehem, we retraced our steps back to Eilat, Taba, and